This week I made some Christmas ornaments out of plywood. Hi everyone, welcome back to the City Aperture channel. My name is Jose. I go by City Aperture. A little under the weather, but I wanted to share a project I made. Well, it's a couple of weeks ago now because we are past New Year's. We're in 2018. But I made some Christmas ornaments. Here's one out of plywood. I actually made two of them. Here's another one. And I made them out of some plywood that I had left from, I don't know if you guys have seen the Butsadon video. I'll put a link to that if in one of the cards. But I really like the pattern that the plywood made. You know, that you had a cross section of it. So I decided to make some Christmas ornaments out of some spare plywood I had. And I'm going to share with you guys how I went about doing it. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. I started by gluing all the pieces that I had, extra pieces. So I had this 9 flat rectangles of plywood. So I glued them all together into a big block. Just had to do them 2 at a time because I didn't have enough clamps to do it all at once, and I wanted it to stay lined up. You can see the issue though is that some of the pieces of plywood had holes that would go all the way through it where the plies weren't complete. So I thought I needed to fill those up, and I just grabbed some sticks and spare wood, and I just applied some glue and glued them in until I had filled everything up like you see here. Right, all the holes were filled up. I also used a little bit of a wood filler to fill any other small gaps. And I went to the sander and just sanded all of that stuff off, sanded everything flat. And I sanded all the sides even though I'm about to cut it. And here I'm setting up the table saw to cut the big block into a bunch of small flat pieces. And I had to run it through twice in order to get the pieces to cut all the way through. The saw wasn't tall enough. Then I took those to the sander again and just sort of made sure the faces were flat. Once I had the flat slabs like you see here, I just sort of drew a line down the side of each one, sort of marking the middle, because I wanted to go ahead and bevel the edge. I wanted to take as much material off as possible before I cut the shape into it. So here, back to the sander, just sort of sanding it and rounding it to a corner, to basically to a point. The idea being that once I cut the shape, I don't have to do as much sanding with a smaller piece. Here you see how they end up being sort of like these tear-shaped wedges that then I'm just drawing the shape that I'm going to cut out on. I did a little thinking about the shape. I wanted to do a tree at first, and but then I decided, let me just do some sort of the traditional Christmas ornament shapes, a circle, a teardrop. I had 3 of them and I experimented with one. I ended up keeping just 2 out of the third one. The third one was sort of more of a able to, try things out on. Here you see me using the scroll saw to cut out the shape, and I just went through, cut out all the shapes all the way around. And then it was filling a little more because again some holes appeared in the plywood. I used this plastic wood is what it's called. But yeah, just sort of you can see the little gaps there from where I had filled some of the holes and some of the imperfections in the plywood. I think next time I'll use a better grade plywood so that I don't have to fill as much. And once everything was filled, it was time to go back to sanding, but this time I am gonna, and I filled both of them up. Alright, filled all the holes in both of them is what I meant. And then this time I used a little bit of a Dremel to round down some of the edges. And it just made it go quicker because there's a lot of sanding. There's already been a lot of sanding in this project. But yeah, we're just sort of rounding some of the edges. You can see how the bevel helped a little bit, and I didn't have to sand the small piece as much. The tear-shaped one I wanted to sand more to round all the way around. So it was just a lot of back and forth sanding. And first a higher grit, and then I would go to a smaller, thinner grit here, and then just using my finger once it's almost rounded, just using a little more. and then applying the finish. I just use Danish oil for this. It's very easy to apply. It's the same finish I used on the Butsudan that I mentioned earlier, because it really makes the wood sort of pop. It goes from very dull looking to a nice sort of bright finish, and it shows a lot of difference between the dark and light plies of the plywood. So I don't know, I really enjoying the Danish oil. It's also both stain and finish, which is why I like it, less work. But yeah, I put a couple of good coats. I think I ended up doing 3 coats on each piece, and dry a little in between, and that's all I needed to do to it. Then it's just a matter of putting the strings on them. So there you guys have it. That's how I made a couple of Christmas ornaments. They're not your traditional Christmas ornament. I love the pattern that the plywood makes when you stack it like this and you cut a cross section through it. And it's just a simple finish. Put a simple string on it, just a little strand, and hung them off the tree. I think next year I'll try something a little more complicated. Maybe try and turn something on a lathe. I don't know. I'll have to practice some lathe work between now and then. But yeah, just a couple of quick, simple Christmas ornaments. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe and like the channel, and hang in there. I'm gonna have a couple more projects coming up. Gonna go back to some 3D printing and even some more woodwork. But thanks guys for watching. Hope you guys had a good holiday season and are having a good New Year's. So talk to you guys next week. If you guys like this project, then maybe you'll enjoy the podcast that I do with my 2 colleagues, Claudia and Ray. We discuss purpose-driven design, making, and manufacturing. We talk about architecture. We talk about all sorts of making. We have a project of the week. So yeah, please check it out. Again, it's called The Made Podcast. Thanks so much.